So welcome back guys to another video, and I thought this video would be something really interesting because, you know, I'll tell you guys, when I'm out buying video games, I only buy games I want to play. I'm not the kind of collector that I'm looking for rarity or uncommon. I'd rather have a bunch of games I enjoy playing than just a bunch of games that fill up the shelf. And with that being said, there are some games in my collection that I just cannot part ways with, but for some reason I just could not get into them. And that's kind of what this video is going to be about. And after this video, be sure to leave a comment. Tell me some games that you have in your collection that for some reason you just could not get into. Now, without further ado, I'll start with the first game, and I can already feel the dislikes going up on this video because this video game right here has a big fan base, and a lot of people would say this is one of the best series of all time, but I, for some reason, couldn't get into it. And that's for the Xbox 360, Mass Effect. Now, funny story about this. This is actually not my copy of Mass Effect. I've had this game now for since I had my 360 back in 2010. I've had this game, and it's been my boss, or my former boss's copy, and I'm still good friends with him, so what's up, Sean? I still have your Mass Effect. But yeah, he loaned me this game, and when I first got my 360 and told me I had to play it, he's like, man, you gotta play this game. And I love the atmosphere of Mass Effect. I love the premises behind Mass Effect. I love the character models. I love the Star Wars aspect of this game, but for some reason I just couldn't get into it. It was really hard getting into, and I know a lot of people have told me, you know, oh, the game gets better about 5 hours into it, and that's my problem. When I play a game, I don't want to have to play it for a couple of hours for it to get fun. I want it to already be fun. I mean, that's the whole point of playing a video game. And I've made it a point that I'm not going to play Mass Effect 2 or 3 until I beat Mass Effect 1. And I've heard a lot of people say Mass Effect 2 is a lot better. I was like, man, it's leaps and bounds better than Mass Effect 1, but I just cannot bring myself to play it without beating the first one. I feel like I'm selling myself short, so hopefully one day I will finally beat Mass Effect. Now, the next game I wanted to talk about, it's funny, as I was looking up some research on this series when I realized it's almost 20 years old. Holy shit, I've been playing this game for probably 18 or 19 years, and I love this series. But I'm going to be talking about Pokemon Black. And I grew up playing Pokemon Red and Blue back in middle school. I got this as a Christmas gift from my guitarist, who's also a huge Pokemon fan. That was one of the things that first got us to become friends back in high school, was talking about Pokemon. And I don't know what it is about Pokemon games is a lot of them are just they're the same. They're the same starting out and playing. I mean, there's over the years there's some changes, but you know, every game starts off the same, where you're like this kid who like finds some sort of mentor, professor that tells you about the world of Pokemon. You get your starters, and then you go in tall grass, you find your rival. You know, it's the same old song and dance, and that's really what's turned me off from the series in the past couple years. Now, I loved X and Y, but I think it's because X and Y had something a little different compared to the other Pokemon games. But yeah, I just could not get into this game. I played probably about an hour and a half of it, and I was like, this is so repetitive it doesn't even feel nostalgic right now, and that's a problem. That's a big problem. So maybe one day I'll go back and play Pokemon Black, because I know they have Pokemon Black and White 1 and 2, and I'd love to play the sequels, and it does have a little bit more of a darker look to it, which is kind of cool, but I just couldn't get into it. Now, when I first got my 360, I got in a huge JRPG kick. Like, I was playing a lot of RPGs when I first got this console, and it's funny because the 360 is not really the best console to have for JRPGs. I mean, that's where the PS3 kind of reigns. But I had just got done beating Blue Dragon, and I was on my way getting Lost Odyssey when I saw this game in the bargain bin, and I'm like, it's a Square Enix game, I want to pick it up, and that is Infinite Undiscovery. Now, I've talked to a lot of people that really enjoy this game, and more power to you. And it looks like a great game. I played a little bit of it, and it looks beautiful. I love the battle system. The battle system is very reminiscent to another game I'm going to mention in just a second, and maybe it was the voice acting, because the English voice acting is really not that great. And I mean, I'm not a stickler for it because I've played some games with some really bad voice acting, but just, I don't know, I expected more from Square Enix, and it just, for some reason, it turned me off. And it's a shame, really, because this game seems really, really cool, and it has a huge roster of characters, and almost overwhelming roster of characters from what I hear. And for the longest time, I had a little joke with this game. I called it, for many years, I called it Infinite Disappointment. But I mean, that's just all joking aside, and one day maybe I'll play this game. You know, it's hard for me, you know, with my time frame, to put so many hours into an RPG. So, you know, like many games, it's got to grab me from the moment I play it. Otherwise, I just don't feel like wasting my time with it. And the last game that I wanted to talk about, and I hate putting this game in this category because I love the series. It's one of my favorite series of all time, and for some reason I just couldn't get into this one, and that is Final Fantasy XII. And this is a game I want to like. I wish that this game was awesome in my eyes. I mean, to this day, it's still one of the most beautiful PS2 games I had ever played. I had it hooked up through component cables. It really made the colors pop, and I love the battle system. That was probably one of the things that this and Infinite Undiscovery have in common, is their battle systems are very similar, and I love those battle systems. It's kind of like that MMO type of flavor, which is great, kind of change from a turn-based JRPG. So that's what I really liked about it. But one of the things that I couldn't get into with Final Fantasy XII was maybe the story. The story is very just sporadic. I feel like it's going in 5 different directions at one time, and the hero you play as, he's just kind of annoying. Honestly, I just don't like him, and I have to feel like I'm connected to the main character in the game. I have to feel like there's something about him that makes me want to play as him. I mean, that's who I am in that role-playing game, you know? So it was just hard for me to play it and hear this like little kid whining or something like that. I don't know what it was. It was just something about it did not excite me, and it's a shame because I love Final Fantasy, and it's some of the same reasons why I don't really like Final Fantasy XIII a whole lot is the story, man. I mean, I don't mind complex stories, but wow, you know, you don't have to go in 5 different directions in the first cutscene. Otherwise, I just completely lose the point. So, I don't know. Maybe one day I will love Final Fantasy XII. I think a lot of games, I think of them kind of like, you know, over the years you kind of acquire a taste for them. It's kind of like, you know, for years you don't like the taste of mushrooms, then sporadically you can't get enough of them, and maybe that's the reason why I keep some of these games in my collection, is because maybe I have some sort of thought that maybe one day I'll put this game in and I'll enjoy it, and it'll be like one of the best games I've ever played in a long time, and I'm like, man, I'm glad I didn't get rid of this game. And maybe that's so. I mean, it's happened to me in games over the years, but these 4 titles right here, I really wish I could love them, but for now they're just on my shelf, kind of just taunting me, just kind of just looking at me and waiting for me to grab them. But anyway, guys, definitely leave a comment below. Tell me some of the games that you have in your collection that you just couldn't get into, that for some reason you couldn't part ways with. And if you're a fan of these games, tell me some things that you really like about it. I would love to get into some of these games. Sell it to me. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and as always, happy gaming.